All right.
I was just trying to think of an example.
Well, you're live now. So.
I'm Laura. You heard my husband. He started the video and I was just not focused, but okay, we're good. Let's go.
So go ahead.
Individuals have relationships.
See, when I was growing up in school, not in school, but when I was going to school, in grade school, in high school, they had something called, you had to do an impromptu speech.
I never liked impromptu speeches.
Oh, you did that too?
We had a speech class,
okay.
Yes.
Well, this is one of those now, impromptu speech. So, go for it.
As Jackie and Younghwa say, you're in the hot seat now. Gotta make it happen. Feelings of rejection and letting go, of certain situations and relationships is what we're going to be discussing here.
Well, here's the thing, right? To introduce that, if you don't mind.
Okay.
I'm going to ask some questions of your viewers.
Of the viewers?
Yes.
Are they going to answer you?
Have you ever felt that you can't let go of somebody? For example, you might be in a relationship and then the relationship has obviously come to an end, but then you're having a hard time letting go. Or it could have been years since the relationship occurred and it's,
and you're still thinking about it and still wanting it to take place.
Maybe not even about wanting it to take place, but you're still thinking about it. When you think about it, it could be it could create negative sensations or positive sensations. But in either case, you haven't let go of it.
All right.
Isn't that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Then we have individuals that might say, why did this happen? Why did this person leave me?
Right.
Right? Or why did I have to leave this job? Or I don't want to leave this house. I've been here since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. This house belongs to it's a family heirloom. I'm making things up.
People get sentimental about things as well.
Right? Or folks might say, get out of my house. This is my house. This is my bicycle. This is my car. When you do things like that, it leads to what we're discussing here about how someone has a challenge letting go of a situation or of a thing or of a being.
Oh, yes.
Does that help you introduce the topic?
You just introduced it. I don't have to introduce it now. Now we discuss. Because I know growing up, I was always taught that you should, as the saying goes, forgive and forget. But there were some things that were kind of hard to forgive and just let go of. I mean, I have now, because I can't even think of any of them, but I know I used to fight a lot with my siblings and I would, hold some grudges there. But I couldn't think of anything specific. But I know that is something big that people struggle with. When they get hurt, they hold a grudge against a person or against a group of people. And one of the things that I think is beneficial is if you can learn to let go of that energy, because holding on to it and constantly reminding yourself about it and thinking about how, it affected you at that point in your life is not very helpful.
Well, I don't know if it's not very helpful. I think that you can think of something, but the way you think about it and the way you feel about it is what makes the difference.
So your perspective about it.
I'd say.
So if I'm in the perspective that it's hurtful, it's painful, and I don't like what they did, then it's probably non-beneficial. But if I'm looking at it saying, you know what, if this ever comes up again in my life, I will handle this differently and just use it as a learning story of some kind, learning experience. Thank you.
Well, you could even say that when you think about it, you can still say, I didn't like how that went. I don't like what happened. It's still fine, but then it doesn't stir up negative emotions. You're just saying how you felt about it when it took place.
Okay.
All right? Because it's one thing to observe it, to evaluate what has happened,
Mm-hmm.
You know, to literally evaluate, say, okay, man, when I look back, I shouldn't have made that decision, or the way this turned out wasn't very good, but it's still a learning experience.
Right.
It's good to be honest about it and say, oh, that really hurt me. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was painful. But it's not like you're feeling the pain when you say that.
Got it.
You're looking back and in retrospect, you're saying, yeah, that was painful. But you're not reliving it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you following what I'm saying?
I am.
Okay. So to me, if you can do that, you've let go of it. I've always said, and I truly believe this, well, their masters actually told me this and told us this, that you'll know when you balance karma about something, which is when you've pretty much let it go, because you'll think about the situation, but it won't affect you in a negative way. Do you remember that?
I do. We even did videos about how to get through like a hopeless situation. Or I know for me, in the videos I had talked about how I had emotions still when I thought of certain situations, and how I went ahead and asked for help in dealing with those things. So, yes,
Okay.
I remember
And then
that.
what?
And then I got the help.
What
And
help did you get? Like, how does it fit into what we're saying?
Oh, well, you know, it's a video. One of them is called a karmic board experience, where I went to the karmic board before going to sleep in my mind, and I went ahead and I talked to them about these situations that I was still struggling with and had these emotions tied to. And after I went and just fell asleep, the next time I thought about those experiences after that day, it was different. There was no more of that emotion there. It was just an experience now.
Okay.
And I was able to move
That's
on.
what you're saying.
Right.
It was like maybe a memory, but not one that stirs up any type of emotion.
Correct.
Got it. How do we get to that? Oh, it's going back to, because you were talking about if you're looking back at something, then you haven't let go yet.
Right.
And I was saying not necessarily. You can look back at something and it's not an issue.
Correct.
No, I still remember this one individual that I worked with years ago, and he grew up in the projects in Chicago. What were they called? Robert Taylor Homes.
Robert Taylor Homes? Okay.
The Robert Taylor Homes.
There are a lot of them there.
Right, that Robert Taylor Homes is where he grew up. But he was obviously successful already. Right? He was a successful accountant.
Mm-hmm.
But he chose not to drive. He wouldn't own a vehicle. Even though he could afford to buy one. He owned a very nice condominium on the lake near Lake Michigan. He could afford whatever he wanted, right? Single guy. But then one day he took me out for lunch, and I don't recall why, but he invited me for lunch, so we went for lunch, and the lady asked if he wanted beans with whatever she was serving, and he said no, and he was just adamant about the no. I said, why do you keep repeating no about the beans? He said, when I was growing up, that's how my mom could afford to feed us, canned beans. So to this day, I hate beans. So I just refuse to eat beans. How does that fit into what we're talking about here?
Because he's holding a negative emotion along with that memory.
Exactly. He hasn't let go of that. Simple thing, it's just a staple item, food.
Right.
But he has this very strong negative feeling for this food item because of the way he grew up. As much as he was successful then, he couldn't let go of that one thing. That reminded him of the struggles that he had when he was a kid. And he wasn't using it in a way to push himself forward. He was just refusing to eat something that was a good source of protein. This is the way I saw it. I told him, I said, do you know you're depriving yourself of a very good source of protein without eating meat? And he said, I know, but I just hate beans because of the way I grew up.
Wow.
So that's where we should learn to let go. Now that's a simple thing as a food item. But what about relationships? What about a job?
Yes.
So let's get into those before our time runs out. Go ahead.
Okay, so what about relationships? You know, a marriage ended and divorce and separation took place. but one spouse still wants to hang on to the other one, and the other one's like, let me go, let me live my life. How does that one let go, even though they want to hold on to everything?
You're asking me.
Yes, I'm asking you. You're the wise sage that I've come to for answers.
Well, I would say that the person should understand that everything in our lives and everyone that we encounter comes into our life for a specific reason. Right? You and I were talking about this not too long ago. I don't recall when exactly. But I brought up to you a realization that I had, which was someone that I consider one of my very best friends. Outside of my cousins, right? Because he's my best friend ever.
Okay.
That's Pops. You know?
Right.
And then, of course, I have my Chinese wife, and then my Korean sister. They're my best friends. You know, so then I have my other cousins, but I won't name all of them.
I guess we're introducing family and friends today.
But this one individual is someone that he taught me computer science class, right? When I was in America, Mr. O. And he introduced me to the teachings.
Okay.
Years before I met you.
Yes.
And then when because you and him, he met you first or whatever that was, I don't know how that went, but you and him were close. I didn't really deal with you, we know that already. So we don't have to go into why, because you like to say I didn't like you, which is not really true. But
Again, it was my perspective.
yeah, I mean, it's not, I just didn't.
We're not getting into that.
You were not
We're talking
part of my
about-
agenda, as in, why would I even
We're talking about your
pay
story
attention to
with
you
your
when
good
I have
friend.
other people I'm working with, right?
See, I'm trying to get him on track. Your good friend, Mr. O.
Right, so anyway.
Let's not digress.
So here's Mr. O. You and him get close,
Right.
and he starts teaching you about the teachings. Do you know what realization I'm talking about now?
No.
Oh, okay. And then I told you how I had the realization, you know, everyone comes into our life for a reason. Is it possible? Oh, and then I also said, because someone had asked a question about, is this person, are they twin rays or twin flames, something like that. And I said, who knows? They could be. Whomever the people were, I don't recall who they were. I said, who knows? They could be. But that just because they don't get along now doesn't mean that they're not twin flames or twin rays. And I told you, remember that the Ascended Masters have taught us that if both individuals are not on the same level spiritually, they won't get along. And they could be twin rays or twin flames.
Right.
But they'll hate each other. You know, they just can't get along. And then I said, oh, is it possible that the reason why Mr. O came into our lives was for him to introduce the teachings to me and introduce it to you so it could be on the same level? Because if you remember, I didn't deal with you at all.
Right.
And it wasn't until after you learned about the teachings, even though you didn't fully accept it,
Right.
but then we had something to talk about in common.
Yes. And I was already starting to practice some of the things that
Exactly.
were being taught to me.
Right? So yes, we know that we're twin flames now.
Right.
But in the beginning, I wanted nothing to do with you.
That's right.
But that doesn't mean I disliked you, by the way. All right, I just
So
didn't want
he
anything to do with you. Right? So here we go. All of a sudden, maybe we were not on the same spiritual level.
Right.
And he helped us get to the same spiritual level. And all of a sudden, we're communicating. And years later, we're still married. Isn't that something?
So then, when a couple finds that they should be separating, is it highly possible then that they're at different levels?
It's highly possible. You know, it's highly possible that one of the reasons could be that spiritually they're disconnected. That's only one reason, though. The other
Right.
reason
There could be many others.
that the relationship wasn't meant to last that amount of time, and whatever they had to balance between themselves is now balanced. And it's time to move on. Now you'll know when it's time to move on. We did a video on that because it's going to be amicable. If one person wants to move on and they're angry, then that relationship hasn't ended yet.
Well, what about if the person that wants to move on is still being, I'm fine, I'm happy, I want you to be happy, but that other person is getting angry because they don't want them to leave.
Well, that's not the same thing, because the person that wants to leave is not leaving because of anger.
Right.
The person is not leaving because they're unhappy with the individual. They're leaving because they feel there's something more they have to accomplish.
Or something else that they just want to do.
That's correct. Which in that case, you should leave them alone for them to go on their journey, which means that your journey with that soul is over. And if you can understand that it has nothing to do with you doing anything wrong, the reason why people don't want to let go is because they think there's something wrong, that they did something wrong. Then they blame themselves for things. Or they want to hold on because they feel they can't live without that person. Well, that's the attachment part that we're talking about. That's why people say my house, my husband, my wife, right?
I see.
Because
that goes back to the video that we did about the law of attachment, I think it's called.
Oh, okay. Right? The moment you start to do that, you start to program yourself into believing that you have the right to hold on to something. And that's not the case. Everything that's put into our possession, we're borrowing, because it all belongs to God. And the time comes when it has to be recycled. It has to go to somebody else. All we do is recycle things. If you notice, money, it just gets recycled. It goes from one hand to the next. Everything we do is nothing but recycling. And if you look at it that way, then everything is limitless. People are worried about being broke or going broke. People are worried about money running out. Money can never run out, because if you just recycle, it's going to come back to you. It's just like energy. There's a law in physics or chemistry that says what? That the law of conservation of energy is called, actually.
Okay.
And that law states that energy cannot be created or destroyed. The same amount of energy that the world was created with is the same amount that it's going to wind up with when it's all done. New energy cannot be created, and energy can't be destroyed. Now, you can transform it into a different type. For example, you could take ice and turn it into vapor, right? But the energy it takes to turn ice into vapor, just the energy form just changed. That's all it was. It's not new.
Got it.
If you burn something, you just took it from being a solid to being, I guess, smoke, and then from there it just disappears again.
Turned into ash.
Right, but that energy is still there in whatever that new object is that's created. Our life is the same way. So, someone leaves, that energy leaves, something else will come and take its place, because the law of nature is about equilibrium. In chemistry, you do something, it's actually called equilibrium when you're doing formulae, right? You might say H2O is equal to, but it's not an equal sign, it has the equilibrium sign, like two arrows. And then on the right side, then it will have what? 2H, like two hydrogen.
All of you scientists out there will understand this. I promise. The rest of us, it's a good lesson.
Next time we'll put a storyboard up. And then the O for oxygen, I want oxygen.
Right.
So everything has to be in balance. So here's the thing. If you decide that you want to hold on to something or hold on to somebody, when are you going to get balance in your life?
You won't.
You won't. Because you're insisting on keeping everything imbalanced or unbalanced, whichever.
And that
We're British and
sounds like it applies to everything, even if, like the job situation we were talking
That's
about.
correct.
You're wanting to hold on to that job, hold on to that position because you really like that, but then the company is done with you. It's time to move on.
Exactly. And what you do is, it's a gift. You should be like, I look forward to my next job.
Right?
And there's a saying, when I was growing up, there's a saying goes about, and I think it's even here, I've heard it, where it says, when one door closes, another door opens. Right?
Or in The Sound of Music, when God closes a door somewhere, he opens a window.
I was going to say, the one I know about has to do with a window. Maybe that's what it comes from. The one I know about actually is a window.
I wonder how many people will go and watch that movie now.
You'll see my wife in there. Is that the one?
It's not me. A lot of people think I happen to look like Julie Andrews.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, but that's the point, that or somebody leaves, right? Like maybe you're in love with this person, the person leaves. Okay, so the person leaves. It's time to move on. Just understand that it's not a reflection of you and how bad you are, how good you are.
Right.
It's a new opportunity. Something new is coming to your life. Welcome it with open arms. And if you do that, you'll see that it's meant for growth. When that separation took place, it was meant for you to grow. So accept it quickly and watch how your life changes. If you continue to hold on to it, nothing new is going to come. And then you're wondering why your life is so miserable.
And why things aren't changing.
Right. It's because you're not allowing the change to occur. And that's, like you said, that's with everything. You know, if you have your child and your child is about to go off to college, you're trying to hold on to them. Oh, you should go to college nearby so we can go visit you. Leave your child alone. Let them go to the college that they want to go to. Because they have a purpose in life.
Let them go on their journey.
Exactly. They have to fulfill their purpose in this lifetime. We should not hold them back from doing that. And that's again with everybody.
Right.
We all have a journey.
So don't take any rejections personally.
Well, there are no rejections.
Well, people see it as a rejection.
But you shouldn't say that.
I didn't get the job. I was rejected for the job.
No.
Or,
So what I'm saying, when something happens, look at it as it's time for a new opportunity.
time
It's
for
not
a
a
new
rejection,
phase in life.
right? Or
Okay.
now you might say if you perceive something as a rejection.
Ah, very good. Yes.
Make sense?
If you perceive it as a rejection, change the perception. Look at it as a new opportunity being presented to you.
Because it is. It is it's a new window being opened by God.
Yes.
It really
so
is.
peek through the window and see what's in store for you.
And don't go jumping on. It might be a it'll be a long fall down. So
Sometimes jumping out though could take you to great places. You'll
well, they
fly,
say
you'll
jump
soar.
and then your wings come out. Yeah,
That's
well,
right.
good for you if you have wings from a 50-story building. So whoever said that, there must have been a bird or something. But as much as I believe in angels, I don't think Archangel Michael is going to look at me and say, well,
No.
jump out the
Archangel
window.
Michael has saved you before, so.
Yes, but not by me doing something silly.
No,
Exactly.
but you flew and you don't know how you got to the other side of that highway.
I didn't fly, I was driving.
I know you were driving, but you didn't know how you got to the other side of the highway, so you could have flown. You just didn't know it.
The point I'm making is, it's not like I went into traffic and decided, let me see if I get hit on 18-wheeler. That's the point I'm making.
I know.
Right.
Anyway, I hope this video topic has helped you in some way.
It did?
Feel
I
free.
don't know. Did we answer the question?
I think we covered it, letting go, basically, of moving on from
Just see it as a
relationships,
challenge,
jobs.
as a
it's
new
an
opportunity.
right?
And that's with anything.
Embrace
whether
it.
Whether it's money, whether it's an item, a person, a relationship,
Moving to
job,
a new home, moving to a new
place.
country,
Exactly.
somewhere. Just,
Exactly.
moving on.
Sometimes people say that they're afraid of the unknown. You should embrace the unknown. Right?
That's
You should
when you
look
learn.
forward to it, and that's the key right there. That's what we're supposed to close with. Embrace the unknown.
Embrace the unknown.
There we go. A new T-shirt. Embrace the unknown.
Oh, that's good. We
Yes.
can tell the kids about that one.
Yes, we will.
All right. Share the video. Remember to subscribe, like,